How you doing, lads and ladies? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to take a look at the poise mechanics in Elden Ring. But first, I'd like to give a shout out to Stormcrown and Eski on the Elden Ring PvP Discord server for helping me test everything I'm about to show you here today. Now, this is not a comprehensive guide to poises yet, as there's still quite a lot that we need to test, but this is going to give you some preliminary confirmed findings that are going to help you understand how poise works in Elden Ring, and also to give you some breakpoints that you should consider when you are fighting against fast weapon classes. So let's begin. So, the next part of this video is actually going to be split up into two separate sections. Firstly, I'm going to describe to you how the poise mechanics work in Elden Ring, and then I'm going to show you some footage of those mechanics in action. Now, during that footage, I'm going to give you some breakpoints to consider if you intend to optimize poise against fast weapon classes. So, how does poise actually work in Elden Ring? Well, essentially, it's a hybrid system. So you've got passive poise like you did in Dark Souls 1, although it's a bit more balanced here in Elden Ring. And you've also got Hyperarmor like you did in Dark Souls 3. I can also confirm here today that the Greatsword actually does have Hyperarmor, but only in its two-handed attacks. So how does the passive poise part of the system actually work? Well, essentially, you'll be looking to optimize your static armor poise value. So if we open our status page here, you can see, for example, that using just the armor that I have on right now, I have got 56 poise. So you can increase this depending on the armor that you have, and you can also increase it using things like talismans. Now, when you're optimizing your static armor poise value here, this is where you'll need to hit certain breakpoints depending on what weapon class you intend to tank, if we're just thinking about passive poise. Now, when you've actually optimized your static armor poise value to be able to tank a particular weapon class, what this normally means is you're going to be able to tank one hit neutral from, let's just say, a standard attack of that weapon class, while the second hit is likely going to stagger you or poise break you. The thing that we've noticed though on some preliminary tests is that there seems to be an invisible sort of poise bar in the background. So effectively what this means is you'll optimize your armor poise value for a certain breakpoint and you'll get hit. And that hit will chip away at part of that poise bar. Now you'll have some of that poise bar left after that hit. Now, depending on how much poise you have stacked overall, then it means you might be able to tank the next oncoming hit as well before you get staggered, as long as it doesn't completely break your poise bar. Now, we've tested this, for example, with daggers, where we found the breakpoint to be able to tank one hit in neutral, and the second hit was a stagger, and then we stacked poise up to the point where we found out you could tank 2 hits in neutral, and then you would stagger. So I would assume this is how it would work also for other weapon classes, where if you do stack enough poise, you'll be able to tank consecutive hits, although the breakpoints seem to increase a fair amount when you're doing this, or at least in testing. So I definitely don't think that you're able to infinitely poise at all. I think that you'll likely be able to tank maybe 2 or 3 hits in neutral at best before you're going to get staggered. And I'm going to show you all of this in practice when we get to the footage part of this video. Now, when you get staggered or your poise broken, it actually resets your poise back to full. So this means you'll be able to tank the next hit in neutral and restart the chain, so to speak. Now, you can also reset your poise by pressing R1. We've tested this with the Greatsword, and you don't need to hit confirm. Just pressing R1 is also another way that you can reset your poise, but using this method, it doesn't reset your poise back to full. It only restores a portion of your poise health. So what this means is you're going to be able to tank the next oncoming hit if you reset your poise using this method, but the breakpoints are going to be higher. The other side of the coin to consider is Hyperarmor. So Hyperarmor does exist here, and it activates around mid-swing of your attack animation, at least when you're using these heavier weapon classes. Now, one thing I will say, and we're going to need to take a look at the frame data to confirm this, is that it certainly seems like the Hyperarmor window here in Elden Ring is a lot more narrow than it was in Dark Souls 3. What I've also confirmed here today is that utilizing Hyperarmor alone, you're going to need less poise to tank hits than you do if you're tanking a hit in neutral using the passive poise system. So essentially both systems working together work quite well. Each system on its own has quite a few weaknesses. So it's a good balance of both, at least in my opinion. Now, let's have a look at these mechanics in action. And now for some closing remarks. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and while this wasn't a comprehensive guide to Poise, I do intend on making one later down the track once we test all of the data. At this stage I'm going to focus on finishing the game, but expect another video in future when we look at all of the Poise mechanics in action against all weapon classes. Now I do hope you at least have some solid preliminary findings here to help you understand Poise in Elden Ring, and some good breakpoints to consider against fast weapon classes. Now there is also perseverance in this game in the form of Endure, which is an Ash of War. So if you intend to tank heavier weapon classes, at least for now, use that Ash of War to get you through. Otherwise, that's about it. I'll catch you in the next video.